Hello and welcome to Bags of Action. My name is Pete and this is a 5-minute Bags of Action review of Godzilla King of Monsters from 2019, the third movie in the Monsterverse after Godzilla and Kong Skull Island. The crypto-zoological agency Monarch faces off against a battery of god-sized monsters, including the mighty Godzilla, who collides with Mothra, Rodan and his ultimate nemesis, the three-headed King Ghidorah. This was directed by Michael Dougherty, who previously directed Krampus and Trick or Treat, and it was written, the story was by Dougherty and Zach Shields, who came onto the project later, taking over from Max Borenstein, who originally wrote the story. He's been a consistent figure throughout the Monsterverse movies. But then it was Dougherty and Shields who got the actual screenplay credit, so I'm imagining they were quite extensively rewrote it once Dougherty was in place as the director. So as well as writing the films he's directed himself before, Dougherty also wrote the story for X-Men Apocalypse, the story and screenplay for Superman Returns, and the screenplay for X-Men 2. Co-writer Shields also co-wrote Krampus with him, and wrote Cost of the Summer and I Don't Want to Be Your Love prior to this as well. So who's in Godzilla King of Monsters? The film stars Kyle Chandler from Argo, Super 8 and The Midnight Sky, Vera Farmiga from The Departed, Safe House and Source Code, Millie Bobby Brown, who you'll probably know from TV's Stranger Things, and also Enola Holmes. They play a new family that we have to focus on called the Russells. They were involved in the events of the first movie, albeit off camera, so they're kind of retconned into this film. Ken Watanabe, Sally Hawkins and David Strathairn returned from the first Godzilla movie to give it some connective tissue other than just the monsters. And they're joined by quite a big cast again, the likes of Ziyi Zhang from the Cloverfield Paradox and The Grandmaster, Bradley Whitford from Get Out, The Cabin in the Woods and of course TV's West Wing, Charles Dance, who modern audiences might know best for Game of Thrones and The Crown on TV, but also has been in loads of things like Alien 3, Last Action Hero and Space Truckers, Thomas Middleditch from Zombie Double Tap and Once Upon a Time in Venice, Aisha Hines from Star Trek Into Darkness and Unstoppable, O'Shea Jackson Jr., Ice Cube's son, of course, who was in Straight Outta Compton, where he played his own father, and also in Den of Thieves, and Anthony Ramos from Honest Thief, and from Hamilton, which is where I recognised him. I spent half the film trying to work out what I'd seen him in before, and then looked it up, and he was in Hamilton. So, I went into this film with high hopes. I found the first Godzilla film to be a little bit hit and miss, but overall I enjoyed it, and I really liked Kong Skull Island, and felt that what they were doing in that movie meant the course this film universe was taking was a good one. Now, despite the 3 returning cast members giving us our Monarch scientist and Admiral as continuity, having this totally new family to focus on was a little bit off-putting. My biggest problem was the emphasis on plot over characterization. Yes, this is a big monster movie, but when watching Kong Skull Island, I was invested in the humans as well as in Kong himself. Here, the actions of all 3 members of the main family aren't that compelling, aren't clearly motivated, and despite their trauma linked to the events of the first movie, I never quite got to the point where I really cared about them. That, coupled with some odd story choices and scenes that seemed solely to get people and creatures to the right place at the right time, meant it all started to lose me relatively early in its 2-hour, 15-minute running time. There were times when I couldn't understand why a character did something, not just for the purposes of a twist, but just generally in terms of motivation. That made the actors feel like chess pieces at times, moved around indiscriminately to serve the monster action. And that made me think of something like the second Transformers movie. And I think, I'll be honest, if this had been the first Godzilla movie establishing the Monsterverse, I'd quite possibly have bailed after this one. Lots of good actors had little to do, and only Millie Bobby Brown came out of it as impressing me as a result. And for me, most of those issues came from the script. The monster fights, as in the first 2 films prior to this, were really well realised and impressive. But regardless of how much of a B-movie something is, or how reliant on spectacle it has to be, I always want characters I can invest in and clear, motivated actions to help me enjoy a film. This felt like a lesser version of the Godzilla movie I'd already seen, and that film in itself was far from perfect. Now, Gareth Edwards was originally meant to direct this follow-up to his 2014 film, which would explain why Borenstein had a co-story credit, but he left to pursue smaller-scale projects. Now, I'd like to have seen a version of this film with him at the helm to see if a more coherent version would have been possible. So, yeah, it's tough going. I didn't like this one much, and it felt even less successful due to the strength of Kong Skull Island, to me at least. Having just watched that and liked it so much, this just felt like a pale imitation of the other two MonsterVerse films. And I think, unfortunately, this film has actually kind of made me less excited about Godzilla vs. Kong, which is a shame because I was really building up to that, watching these in quick succession. I'll still watch it. I will still watch the fourth MonsterVerse film, and of course I'll let you know what I thought. So, you can probably guess where this is heading. I'm going to give Godzilla King of Monsters 2 bags of action out of 5. Yeah, it was certainly not as good as the other two, in my humble opinion. Have you seen Godzilla King of Monsters? Do you agree with my assessment of it? Is it the weakest MonsterVerse film? Feel free to comment below or get in touch with us via email, on Facebook or on Twitter. We have new episodes coming out weekly, including our full-length podcast. Don't forget to give this video a like, subscribe to the channel, and hit that bell to get regular notifications. Bags of Action will always be free, but if you'd like to buy us a coffee, you can do that at our Ko-fi page.